Got next. Another week, another episode. What's going on, good people? I'm Zora. She's Meghan. And I thought we could start this episode with, where were you this week?
Great question. Well, where I was, you're more interesting than I am at the moment. I'm
not in studio in Connecticut, no?
I was in studio. That's true. I was in Bristol this week at ESPN for some halftime studio stuff, where I actually saw the Gamecocks play Texas A&M and just how good they've been as of late. But other than that, I'm grounded here in the Northeast, Zora. I'm not allowed to get on an airplane anymore. 36 weeks pregnant, you're in the no-fly zone. And so I'm just hanging out at home, which my husband loves, which is good. But yeah, it's been kind of nice just to kind of sit and watch games versus, constantly being on the go. But it's definitely a new challenge. Where are you this week? Because clearly that's not your normal background.
Well, I'm at the campsite, like everybody knows what the campsite is. This is what Meghan and I call our Iowa stomping grounds, back in Iowa. And of course, I couldn't do a game at Iowa without everybody asking how Meghan is, where Meghan is.
We love Big Ten country. It's like family out there. So you and I called, so many games in Iowa last year, for folks who don't know, that we stayed at the same hotel in the same area. And we called it the campsite because we didn't like to leave the campsite because it was so cold. We only left when necessary, and the food's there, everything you need right there. Great workout room, all the things.
Yeah, all the things you need. And I just informed Meghan of the game changer at the campsite. The hotel where we stay at has room service. It's had it the entire time, and we didn't know. And I just found out this week, and with my current state, let's just say I took full advantage of the room service.
I'm disappointed we didn't know that there was room service, because I feel like we're very travel savvy.
We are.
Take pride in that. And so, but you know what? Better late than never to learn new things, and we are always adjusting and evolving as people.
Yeah. So if you ever need a place to go in Iowa, a place to eat, Meghan and I got you. We know all the spots.
Hit us up.
Covered Iowa, Indiana. I will say, and I know we got a lot of topics to get into, but Iowa, maybe the team is different, the coach is different, but the atmosphere remains the same, and that is so impressive. Second year in a row, sold out crowd. Doesn't matter who they're playing, the fans show up, and I really respect that.
I gotta say, Zora, real quick before we get going, I hated playing at Iowa when I was
every team says that.
Hated it. And it's one of the best places to call a game, especially when you're in a neutral setting, right? Because when you're playing, obviously, you're there with your team. But it's so hard to play there. The fans are loud. The arena gets so, like Carver Hawkeye, it gets so loud. It's one of the best atmospheres in the Big Ten and college basketball, really. And it just continued to grow. And it continues to grow with even though, Caitlin Clark is gone and Lisa Bluter is gone. However, Jan Jensen holding it down with the team, and still sold out tickets right now for season tickets, which is really cool.
Yeah, we could probably have a full Iowa pod. Jan Jensen is amazing. So is Terry Morin. The respect that the coaches in the Big Ten that they have for one another, they all speak so highly of one another. I just really appreciate covering this league. But I'm going to bring another conference into the fold, and we're gonna just have a little chat about it. Meghan and I were thinking about big picture topics. Wait, it's so funny because I texted Meghan a few days ago and I said, hey, what should we talk about on the pod? I've got no ideas, but what do you have? And of course, Meghan just spews out all these topics we could go on. And she goes,
Zora, I'm at home. I have nothing else to do.
No,
all I do
have
is
all the things to do.
With my thoughts about women's basketball and what I want to talk about. I sit there and ponder, is the SEC the best conference in women's basketball? Is it the Big Ten? Is it the ACC? I think you can make an argument for each. It's crazy right now how good women's basketball is from top to bottom. And these are things that'll keep you up at night.
Yeah. I when you brought up SEC versus Big Ten, just in terms of the competition, the star power, the number of ranked teams, I was like, that is a great topic. So let's get into it. Yeah. Right off the bat, because I know you're going to break down a bunch of things, but right off the bat, and the new rankings haven't come out yet, correct?
Correct. Not yet. At noon today, which as of right now, when we were filming this podcast, folks, the new AP rankings are not out yet. So,
okay. So we'll go off last week's. Both conferences have the same number of ranked teams at 7. The last two national championship contenders. So if you go like national championship last year, national championship 2 years ago, there was one SEC team and there was one Big Ten team in both of the national championship games. And both, I believe, have schools that we should be talking about more. Even though, like, for example, in Oklahoma is ranked 10th. We're just not giving them more props. Then on the Big Ten side, you got a team like Ohio State that's not ranked, and they haven't necessarily played tough competition, but they're one of two teams in the Big Ten that are still undefeated. If I have that right, because that would be UCLA and Ohio State, which is a feat in itself. LSU also undefeated on the side of the SEC. So as I spew all these different things, I love going right down the middle. I hate picking sides. It's both conferences are elite. Two very different styles of basketball. To me, SEC is a tad. Ooh, this is where Big Ten may not like what I'm about to say. A tad more athletic, getting to the rim, where the Big Ten, you tend to, and it's not a monolith, but you tend to see more shooters, more traditional. Thank you. More traditional back to the basket posts. Mm-hmm. So different styles, both very effective, and of course, now I have to give you the hard task of, okay, which one is at the top right now?
Zora, I'm going to do what I always do, and that's going to be make a short story long. Let's start with the Big Ten, okay? First and foremost, when you look at some of the bracketology going around, I'm going to go off of Charlie Cream ESPN, right? He's got 13 schools right now from the Big Ten Conference in the NCAA tournament. That's 72% of the league.
Wow. Yeah, there's 18 teams. Wow.
Crazy, right? 13 of the 18 in the NCAA tournament.
Right.
Right? Not the WBIT, not the NIT.
Wow.
No.
That's big.
In the big dance. Huge. You 4 different Big Ten teams in the top 10. 7 total as of last week. I imagine this week Iowa will likely fall out, so that will probably
but Indiana may come in. I don't know.
Could be. Now, here's what I think about the Big Ten. The top 4 teams in the league, I'm talking about USC, UCLA, Ohio State, and Maryland. Those 4 teams to me right now feel somewhat untouchable to the middle of the pack. You saw a great matchup, Maryland, USC last week. I thought that Maryland was going to get the win. USC comes back, wins on the road, huge, even with Juju Watkins in foul trouble, and is able to continue showing why they're a top 5 team in the country. But the middle of the pack doesn't necessarily this season feel like they can challenge the top 2-3 teams in the league the way it's felt in years past. So I'm thinking about UCLA right now, who has won every single Big Ten game by double digits. And that includes Nebraska, who's an NCAA tournament team, Michigan, Indiana. Like, these are teams that are going to likely get bids to the dance, but haven't necessarily been able to challenge UCLA. And I feel similar about USC. So to me, it's like the top teams are really hard to compete with right now. They're just so dominant, more dominant than they have been in years past. When I look at the SEC, you've got 10 schools, according to Charlie Cream, that are going to make the dance. That's 63% of the league.
So that's 10 versus 13. I'm just recapping as of today, bracketology. Okay, got it.
Yes. Okay, so it's 10 out of 16 schools. Obviously, remember, SEC with less schools. Again, 4 SEC schools ranked in the top 10. You got 7 total in the AP poll as of last week. Zora, an SEC team leads the nation in scoring offense, Tennessee. Scoring defense, Ole Miss. Blocks, Kentucky. And the middle of the pack feels so strong. When you take a look at the SEC standings right now, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, those are all in the middle of the pack because they're 2-2 right now, which is crazy. Like, Oklahoma, to me, is one of the best teams in the country. They're one of my favorite teams to watch in general, but, like, that's your middle of the pack team. Those are teams that can challenge the teams at the top. So to me, it feels like, in conclusion, the SEC is going to be a little stronger this year because there's parity in the league, so much parity. The Big Ten is so good and dominant at the very, very top, and there's a lot of parity in the middle. But I think from top to bottom at this moment in time, mid-January, the SEC just has more parity. And that, to me, makes them a stronger league at the moment. The Big Ten's a great league. You know where my heart is. I'm a Big Ten girl.
I can't believe you're going down this route.
But no, like I'll pick a side here for the sake of argument. And look, at the end of the day, we talk about teams that who can make a further run in tournaments. And you look at what the Big Ten's been able to do the last couple of years, getting teams to the Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final Four, etc. SEC teams, it feels like that's something they do every single year. We're used to seeing SEC teams. Big Ten has started to be a little more uncharted territory in terms of consistently getting teams to the Final Four. This year, it would be really odd if we didn't have 2 teams, 3 teams competing to get to the Final Four. Like, that would shock me. But I would say in terms of parity from top to bottom, the SEC right now is a bit more dominant than the Big Ten. And you look at the WNBA, Zora, we just watched some of the best rookies we've seen so far. Look at how the SEC rookies were able to get adjusted at the next level so quickly. Rakia Jackson, who went to Tennessee with Los Angeles, Angel Reese, Camila Cardoso from LSU, South Carolina, in Chicago. Like, these SEC, especially like forwards, centers, are coming into the most physical league in the world, and they're playing right away and making an impact because the SEC prepares you so well for the physicality at the next level.
Yeah, I think, and you talked about the middle of the pack, right? Say Tennessee's middle of the pack SEC, and they go up against an Indiana middle of the pack Big Ten. At this current state, I would pick Tennessee to win that basketball game, right? And I don't think I'm far-fetched saying that. So middle pack versus middle pack makes complete sense. I do want to, I do think that the Big Ten, you can translate the skill sets to the W. Obviously, Caitlin Clark 100%. Is in a league of her own, but the way JC Sheldon, right, was able to be a starter and a consistent role player on a WNBA team as a rookie, that's no easy feat. And she's coming from the Big Ten and Ohio State. So can be done. Let's they're both great leagues, right? And that's why we're talking about them in this way. And I think it's pretty much guaranteed, nothing's guaranteed, but high percentages that there will be at least one team from each conference in the Final Four.
I love that.
It would be a disappointment if you didn't see, like if there's no Big Ten team in the Final Four, that means something happened to UCLA, USC, even a Maryland charged through, and then the SEC, right? You're something by LSU, South Carolina, and then so on and so forth. So great topic, Meghan.
Good conversation.
Good conversation.
I know it's killing.
And the ACC is in the back, like, can I have a word?
I know the ACC is like, you didn't even bring us up. No, ACC, excellent conference as well. Obviously, this felt right to keep it easy with 2 people. Zora, if we just had, a 3-hour podcast, we could do a deep dive into every league. But for sure,
and we could talk about the Big East and what UConn's been able to do in that league and still be able to be nationally relevant each and every season, right? Even though it may not be a traditional Power 4 league. I feel like in basketball, the Big East is. It's just so synonymous with great basketball. Continuing with the SEC and South Carolina, there's been a lot of chat about, it's so funny. This is how, the internet, love the internet. We're on the internet right now, but the internet can be off the rails at times, okay? Because a month ago, people were talking about how South Carolina's not playing anybody and their schedule is weak. Now the conversation is, right, one person asked a question, so now we got to talk about how South Carolina's schedule is so hard. The ebbs and, this just translates to life, people. The ebbs and flows, okay? Everything is a season. Nothing is permanent, okay? And so you go through a stretch where you play unranked teams. Now South Carolina's going through a stretch where they're playing ranked opponents, and now we want to talk about if they're going to be battle tested. That we just had this whole conversation about how the SEC is arguably the best conference in women's college basketball. A schedule and a couple weeks like this is going to happen. That's how.
Yikes! First off, that is a wild schedule. But here you go. Like, technically, according to the standings right now, like Oklahoma is a middle of the pack team, which is crazy. And that's not going to be the same, obviously, at the end of the day. And LSU, that's become kind of like a fun, almost rivalry in the SEC that we've seen pop up over the last couple of years.
Appointment television. Put it in your calendars.
All of these are. Alabama's not getting enough love for what they've been able to do this season. I love watching Tennessee, another team that is just so much fun to watch. But look, here's the thing about South Carolina, and we saw this with Texas yesterday. I just kicked over my water bottle, so we're going to pick that up so I don't spill it on my floor. Alrighty, so back to what I was saying about South Carolina and Texas. What stood out to me the most about the Gamecocks is the depth they have. And that's what makes South Carolina special. Like, yes, they have some big names, Tahina Pow, who leads the team in minutes per game, right? But like, there's so many different pieces on that team. There's so much depth. That's why they're so good. Like,
Agreed.
they're averaging 43 bench points a game. That leads the nation. No one plays more than 25 minutes a game on average. Okay, so you have so many different people in that rotation coming in. If you're an opponent, you're on that scouting report. We talk about KYP, knowing your personnel. Like, you have to know every single tendency of who's on the floor at all times. Dawn Staley is like, oh, let me pull in another potential All-SEC player. Oh, here's Mylasia Fulwiley, who's not even starting, by the way, who's just coming off the bench and nobody in America can guard her. And then they're defending. And that's what was so impressive about the win over Texas. Texas came into that game as one of the top scoring teams in the country. They were averaging 90 points a game coming in to that South Carolina game. They were held to 50 points. That's a season low. So the defense and forcing Madison Booker to take really tough shots. Madison Booker, I believe, was 3 for 18, 3 for 19 in that game. Madison Booker is going to be a pro. She could potentially be a pro like right now. I love watching her game. She's so smooth. She's a 6'1" guard who just cannot be smoother, has all the fundamental skills in the book. You held her to be really inefficient, and she's one of the most efficient players in the conference. So the defense and the depth from the bench play for South Carolina against one of the best teams in the country. I think Texas has shown signs of being a Final Four team. That stood out to me as being wildly impressive. And to your point, Zora, it's a marathon, not a sprint. We live in a world of hot takes and instant gratification. It takes time for teams to come together, for people to learn new roles. In South Carolina, doing what they did against Texas stood out to me as, wow, this is really them solidifying themselves as a top team in the league.
Yeah, and with basketball, like within a game, we say basketball is a game of runs. The season is the same way, and that's why we love hoops so much. Because on any given night, like you would have thought that South Carolina Texas game would have went down to the wire. That's the expectation based on what they have done this season. But you just never know how you're going to show up that day. You can't predict that, and so yeah, on any given day, even some of these high ranked matchups could be blowouts, and even some of the games that you think should be blowouts could be close. With that being said, another week has gone by. Meghan, I'm going to your power rankings now. There's, if you had to do the top 25 right now, which you are a voter, it was probably madness trying to figure out the top 25 this week. There was to me,
everyone
a lot
lost.
Of movement.
Yeah, everyone lost. I was like, dang.
But I feel like the top 5 kind of remain untouched. No,
they do, which is why for me, my top 5 in my power rankings, UCLA remains there. And look, they have come in and they have beaten everybody by double digits, essentially, in the Big Ten Conference. And these are against really good NCAA tournament caliber teams. South Carolina, to me, moved up to get such a dominant win over Texas, who was a top 5 team. You get a bump. USC also moved up to win at Maryland. Going on the road, it's hard to play in College Park. And that was a game cross-country trip, second game in a cross-country trip leg. And they had to play against one of the best teams in the Big Ten. And Juju Watkins was in foul trouble. So for them to be able to still
come out with Tia Von Olafin. I'm sorry. I'm just all the things.
You get a bump up. Notre Dame only moved down because they won, but it was games they should have won. It was Snow Shade against Notre Dame.
Hannah Hidalgo didn't play the other day.
Yeah, Hannah Hidalgo didn't play. She had I believe it was a lower body. Lower body injury she got against in the game. But hey, Maddie Westbeld is back playing really well. Leah King had a double-double in their win this weekend.
More than capable.
She doesn't get enough love, by the way, Leah King. I love her game. And then LSU moves into the chat because it's really hard to win on the road in conference play. And you went at Tennessee. That game went down to the wire. Everybody's hating on LSU for not playing anybody in the non-conference. I was probably one of those haters. But look, here they are. And once again, this is why Kim Mulkey is so successful, because she knows the formula to give her team confidence in the non-conference by scheduling some weaker teams And that allows her team to figure out their roles, to learn how to win together, to just give them a little bit of an edge. So when they head into SEC play, they're ready to go and have that confidence in knowing how to win.
I agree 100% with all of this. It's at the beginning of the year, I don't know if anyone could have seen UCLA as the number 1 ranked team in the country.
And they've
stayed there. You're lying if you thought that was going to happen.
I didn't think it was going to happen.
But you watch them. Right now, I am of the opinion, who can beat them? I don't know. The depth, the diversity in the ways that they score, the passion that they have all the things that you would want. Like, when you're coming up with like the best player and you're like, all right, I want so-and-so's defense and so-and-so's shooting and so-and-so's ability to get to the, they have all of that. I'm really, really impressed with just the entire group.
And what's with UCLA, I had their NCAA tournament first and second round out in Westwood 2 years ago. And I'm looking at my rosters from then, and when I was prepping for this season coming up, they have a lot of the same players, which doesn't happen often. Roster retention in this day and age with the transfer portal, it's just not a thing really anymore. So for Corey Close to be able to keep that core group has been really big. Like looking at like London Jones, Kiki Rice, Gabby Hawkins. Yeah, like those are people that were on the NCAA tournament team from 2 years ago and last year. Lauren Bess, obviously on the team last year, who I might be the president of her fan club. I love her.
Yeah, you're putting her pick in for player of the year.
I mean, like, my goodness gracious. But it's because she's 6'7" and she like can pass like she's Magic Johnson, and she's so smart and reads just the floor so beautifully. I love her game big time.
And then they have the great mix of transfers. Like, they're playing the transfer game and they still have the core. I just think the pickup of Janai Barker was like, huge, right? And she's coming off the bench, So just shout out to UCLA. We are now moving into our segment portion of the show. We have a few segments that we do every single episode. The first would be our On Her Turf segment. Megan, please get the ceremonial water bottle or piece of something that says On Her Turf. There it is. Okay, On Her Turf, of course, is NBC Sports' women's empowerment brand. And this week, we are empowering and recognizing Marina Mabrey of the WNBA for growth and DiJonai Carrington, her Connecticut Sun teammate, for caring, okay? Right? And for being a good teammate. So if you're not up to speed on this story, it starts with, and this is all happening at Unrivaled, the new 3x3 league that we're so excited will actually debut this week, I believe. But backstory is Marina tweets and's like, I'm so ready to cook. I'm down in Miami. The only seasoning she showed were salt and pepper. Now, in various communities, that is just not enough. And Megan, even I've been to your household. You've cooked. That's not enough.
Salt and pepper is the bare minimum.
So then DiJonai Carrington comes back and said, hey, sis, we got to get you hooked up. So she comes and brings Marina a pack of seasonings, okay? We're talking Creole, garlic salt. I didn't see what else was in that bag, but it was more of what she needed, okay? You see right there, every household needs, I don't even know the brand, but I just know that when I go to the grocery store, I need to get the green thing with the red top. Mm-hmm. And that just helps elevate any dish. So then the kicker in all of this is Marina goes back to her kitchen. She's got all her new seasonings. And out of all things, she chooses to make eggs, which you actually could have probably used salt and pepper for eggs. But anyway, sure. she uses all her new seasonings in the eggs. And she says that the garlic salt just toppled all over it. So it's probably a little bit.
You know what? With great, you get new tools, like you get new toys. Comes great responsibility. You just need to learn a little bit. Oh my gosh, look at this.
I need some pepper in there. I need to see some black
pepper. I would put in some red pepper flakes as well. I'm a spicy gal. But you know what? We got to start somewhere. My favorite part of all of this was how DiJonai brought Marina a Louis Vuitton bag with all the seasonings in them, which is how I now want my spices to be delivered to me moving forward, nothing less. It's just so much fun, the camaraderie down there. Look at all this. We got garlic salt. Yeah, it's the Creole seasoning, Lowry seasoning salt. Excellent on all your meats, folks. Put it on a burger. Really good. I'm into all these seasonings she got her. and the Louis Vuitton bag. It's so good. And I love the friendship that has blossomed between Marina Mabrey and DiJonai Carrington, Connecticut Sun teammates, and how much fun everyone's having down in Unrivaled. It's fun to see, we live in a day and age where people like love to pin women against each other. And all of the content I've seen from Unrivaled has been awesome. Like everyone's friends down there. Like Angel Reese, I think, was doing a live and was like, Marina, did you leave Chicago because of me? And she was like, no, not at all. And then they friendship parted and like settled, squashed all arguments moving forward. So things like that. I love the camaraderie we're seeing down there. Basketball, the game that brings everyone together.
It does. The round orange ball that has so much power. Yeah, I can't say enough about Unrivaled and what they've created. It just goes to show you, like, it can be done the right way in terms of marketing and access and TV deals and salaries. And I'm not going to go on my soapbox, but yeah, shout out to Unrivaled and Stewie and Nafisa Collier and everybody behind the scenes there. Now, got next. This is I don't think like our podcast is a Big Ten stan, but low key it is.
As I just said that the SEC was the better conference we're going to have.
You did, but that was like off brand.
I'm going to get a call from someone today.
So our got next is Shyanne Sellers from the University of Maryland. And she had a press conference, I believe it was after the USC game, and just talking about like, I've been doing this. She has been doing this, okay? She's actually one of the few people in college basketball that stayed put, right? She's been at Maryland her entire career, has been such a staple. And Meghan, you really appreciate her, not just as a player, but as a person as well.
Exactly. And, for what Shyanne Sellers can do on the floor, like she has done everything for Brenda Frese since she was a freshman. And coming in, it's so funny. Brenda Frese said to us, and Shyanne told a story too. She was like, Shyanne Sellers is the worst defender I've ever seen as a freshman come in. And by the end of the season, Shyanne Sellers was one of the best defenders in the Big Ten. And look, at 6'2", Shyanne Sellers can be point guard. She can be your 5. She can play 1 through 5. She's positionless, truly. I love her game in terms of she'll do whatever you want. But what makes her so special is the fact that she's been in Maryland for 4 years. And she came off the bench her freshman year, and then as there was a lot of movement with Maryland, like she has stayed the course. She's been an advocate. Like last year, every single time I did a Maryland game, she was like, so here's why we're going to be an NCAA tournament team. And she'd go over and talk and really provide that insight on what this team was doing. And then of course they had a great run last March and did end up making the NCAA tournament, despite not finishing as high in the league as we're used to seeing Maryland playing, or finishing rather. But Shyanne Sellers does everything Brenda Frese has asked her to do. And to have a player that wants to stay at a university for 4 years is just something we don't see nowadays. So to me, it's worth mentioning. She's played every single position at Maryland. She's guarded the toughest player. She has scored. She's rebounded. She's 3rd in the Big Ten in assists per game right now with nearly 5. She is truly just like that magnet at Maryland. The reason why they're so successful this year is they have an anchor in Shyanne Sellers, even with all those transfers that have come in, that shows them what Brenda Frese wants to do. And when you're a head coach who has a veteran on your team who respects you as much as Shyanne Sellers and Brenda Frese have respect for each other, that is why the Terps are so successful.
Yeah, that's the one point that I wanted to make, right? Like Maryland has had a resurgence this season. And I say that like lightly because they've been such like a staple in women's basketball for many years, but just in terms of the rankings and the relevancy and the way we're talking about them and the talent that they have. And on the surface, it looks like it's because of all the transfers that they've brought in, but it's only working out the way it is because you have the culture set and it's able to be executed because of a player like Shyanne Sellers, who understands what Brenda Frese wants and how you play Maryland Terps basketball. So all hail to her. We are not new to this. And yeah, just a lot of respect for what she does. And I love how you just talked about she's played every single position, had a lot of different roles. Like even this year, her role is different, right? I believe Smichael is the leading scorer on the team. Yeah. And she still understands how important she is. So all the best to her.
Here if she gets the credit. And that's I mean, Shyanne Sellers is also just one of the most enjoyable people to talk to off the court in general.
And she's like funny.
She's so funny. No. Again, in that fan club, in the Shyanne Sellers fan club for sure.
Yeah. So I loved that got next. I loved her on her turf too. It makes me want to go home and use all the seasonings and make
Not
eggs
just salt
that
and
look
pepper.
a little
I
bit
will
better
say,
than Marina.
shout out to Marina Mabrey for using avocado oil, though, which she had in one of those pictures.
She did have the oil and the salt and the pepper.
Heart healthy fat, folks. We gotta keep your heart healthy here.
Oh my goodness. No, this was a fun one. I can't wait to see how all those rankings are going to change, Meghan. And in one of these episodes, we need to dissect how you vote every week. I don't want that. Oh my gosh. You want that smoke. That's a lot.
You want to know what I love? I will say this, and I'll be the last thing I say. It will not be that profound. But the one thing I love about voting and having discussions is it's so opinion-based, right? Like it's your opinion. And I think what's so cool is people approach watching this game from so many different lenses. And when you put it all together is when you, see a lot of different viewpoints. And I love that because I see things and hear things that I've never thought of before sometimes.
Yes, various perspectives are always important. My goodness, now we're just doing life lessons. On Got Next.
Coming to our TED Talk.
We've made it this far. We appreciate you watching and or listening wherever you are. For Got Next, I'm Zora. She's Meghan. We'll talk soon.